What if the only thing stopping you from buying a property isn't money, it's clarity? Today, I'm going to take you on a full property tour across Queensland, starting on the Gold Coast where I live, and travelling through various areas around Queensland. Every single home we look at today is on sale right now. We're going to go deeper than just looking at nice homes. I'll show you exactly what each price bracket costs, how much deposit you need, what the repayments look like at different interest rates, and how each property might suit you, along with some of my personal thoughts as I look at the properties. Then I will break down some real strategies that could potentially help you buy any of these, depending on your situation, even if you think right now you're a long way off. No jargon, no fluff, no sales pitch, just a clear picture of where you actually stand and what might be possible. So where is the Queensland property market right now? Well, let's start with the big picture. Queensland is still experiencing a lot of interstate migration. People are coming here for lifestyle, the weather, affordability, and job opportunities. That is especially true across the Gold Coast, Brisbane, and the Sunshine Coast. On the Gold Coast, we are seeing stable prices. Suburbs like Pimpama, Ormo, and Upper Coomera continue to strongly perform because they are affordable and offer infrastructure for growing families. Once you move into the hinterland, places like Talai, Wurrunggeri, and Mount Tamborine have a little bit more limited supply, but appeal a lot more to the acreage lifestyle and are in strong demand. Brisbane's outer ring remains the backbone of affordability in southeast Queensland. Logan, Flagstone, Greenbank, Yarrabilba, Springfield, and Ripley Valley all sit in that 600 to 800k mark, where borrowing capacity is still realistic for a lot of people. The Ipswich corridor still stands out as one of the best value for money regions in the state. You can still find livable homes for around 600k, and the rental yields are often higher than Brisbane. Regional Queensland markets such as Townsville, Bundaberg, Gladstone, Rockhampton, and Cairns continue to attract investors. These areas generally have strong yields still, around the 5 to 6% is quite common, and in some suburbs you can still find above 6%. Vacancy rates across most of Queensland sit around the 1%. That is incredibly tight and continues to push rents upwards. Interest rates right now are generally sitting between low 5s up to about 7%, depending on your LVR, your lender, and the product you chose. In this video, I'm going to run some payment scenarios on the 5%, 6%, and 7% so you can see what the average repayments look like. In general, supply remains limited and new builds are very slow. All these factors are making prices hold firm and in some cases pushing them upwards. There's a lot of talk of different infrastructure coming into the state too. Projects like the Cross River Rail, the Coomera Connector, and a lot of talk about the Olympic Games coming and what that'll bring. New medical and education hubs and transport upgrades create entirely new demand corridors. These projects can turn suburbs that today are fringe suburbs into tomorrow's growth pockets. Now let us step into some real properties across different price brackets. We're going to break down the numbers later and look at what each one might offer you, whether it's an owner-occupier or investor. We're going to kick off with the $500,000 bracket. I picked two properties to give you an idea of what's available across the state right now. One is more of a classic family home and the other is more of an investor play. First up is the Bakers Creek House. So this one is just south of Mackay and it sits on quite a large block, 1,004 square meters. It has that classic Queenslander look upstairs, polished timber floors and a clean kitchen upgrade. And downstairs you get heaps of extra space to do with what you like. If you're looking for an affordable family home with room to breathe, this is fantastic. There is plenty of space for toys, kids, pets, sheds, toys, and a garden. You do have the dual level of living, which works well as kids get older. Or maybe you could have guests over or a family gym. The home also has a decent solar setup to help with the rising energy costs. This is more of a lifestyle home. Especially at this price, it's a really strong option. From an investor perspective, this is more of a balanced type of property. You won't be chasing super high yields. What you do get is a really strong land component in a strong regional city and tenants who like big blocks and long-term appeal. Older homes do generally mean more maintenance, but they sometimes attract families who want to stay a bit longer too. If your strategy is solid and long-term, this may fit well. I'm also always a fan of decent-sized blocks personally. Property 2 is the units in Mount Isa. So this one is a little bit different. It's 5 units on the one title, and it could suit someone that has some ideas of how to get the most out of it. This type of deal could create a very strong cash flow. Mount Isa is known for strong rental demand when the mining cycle is strong, and with 5 separate rentals, even if one person were to move out, you would still have 4 people renting potentially. It could also mean higher involvement. You now have 5 bathrooms, 5 bedrooms, 5 kitchens, multiple air conditioners, and a bigger maintenance load. And mining towns can move in cycles. So you might pay to speak to a local real estate agent or local property manager and ask them how the area is doing at the moment. For the right investor who wants high return and understands the area and the volatility, this could work incredibly well. It's not so much a beginner play. If you are someone that likes to get your hands dirty, a thought that pops up is you could live in one, start to upgrade it and renovate, and then potentially get some more rental out of it. And you could continue to do that with all the other 4 as well. We're now going to look at some properties in the 6 to 750k price bracket. I picked 2 listings, one up near Hervey Bay and one in Slacks Creek. The first one is the Riverhead's house. It's a 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom, 2-car on 728 square meters. You have 3 bedrooms upstairs, polished timber floors, a simple but functional kitchen, and a light-filled living space. Downstairs, there is a self-contained style zone with its own bathroom, which works really well as a guest area, teen retreat, or a home office. It's got a double garage, solar on the roof, and a new hot water system. You are really close to the local shopping village and the local boat ramp. For an owner or occupier, this is a classic coastal lifestyle move. You have decent yard space to work with, a nice separate area downstairs. Part of the big appeal here is you are buying into a quiet coastal community that's still close enough to Hervey Bay for shopping, healthcare, and services. If you dream about living close to the coast, this might be something you're worth looking at. The second property in this price bracket is a townhouse in Slacks Creek. It's got 3 bedrooms, 1 bath, and 1 car space. It is at the back of the complex, which is nice for privacy. It's got a neat little kitchen with a gas cooktop, an open plan living and a tiled living and dining area, and its own private outdoor patio with a shade sail. The location is very central, close to shops and everything in the area. This might suit someone that wants convenience and low maintenance, doesn't want big land, and doesn't want to have to mow on the weekends. It might be worth checking out the body corporate fees and see what they actually cover, and just get a feel for the actual complex, see how well it is actually managed. If you're working somewhere between Brisbane and the Gold Coast, this might be worth looking at. From an investor point of view, this is kind of a bread and butter type property. The listing has a rental appraisal between $500 and $550 per week, and body corporate is quoted at around $2,200 per year, which does include building insurance. So they give you a pretty good idea of the holding costs. The tenant pool is quite broad here. It suits people looking for their first home, small families, healthcare workers, and people commuting anywhere from Brisbane to Gold Coast every day. For this next part, I want to show you 2 properties that sit in just under the $1 million mark. One is a mountain home in Lower Beechmont on the Gold Coast Hinterland, and the other is a beautifully renovated place in Toowoomba. Both are quality homes that appeal to very different lifestyles. So let us walk through them. First up is the Lower Beechmont house. This is a split-level home on a gently sloping 728 square meter block. It backs directly onto a park. The block is fully fenced with lush, established garden, fruit trees, and veggie patches. Inside you have raked timber ceilings, open plan living and dining, combustion fireplace and reverse cycle air conditioner. The kitchen has a gas cooktop, stainless appliances, and plenty of storage. The main bathroom has been renovated with a separate bath. There's a north-facing undercover entertaining area that overlooks the park and gardens. It also has a 6 kilowatt solar system and a 32,000 litre water tank. There's lots of local cafes and stores within walking distance, and a dog park. You're only about 15 minutes to Nerang and around 35 minutes to Broadbeach. For an owner-occupier, this is more of a romantic type of property. You get the mountain lifestyle, there is greenery everywhere, park frontage, fruit trees, veggie patches, and a deck that looks like the perfect morning coffee spot. The floor plan works well for a couple or a small family. The living area feels warm and inviting with the timber and the fireplace. It is the kind of place you buy because you want peace, community, and nature. Now, just for a practical bit about Beechmont, I highly recommend you drive up the road to Beechmont because a lot of people that I know that have been up there can't even imagine driving that every day. Beechmont itself is beautiful, and I highly recommend you do that drive and see what you think. The second property is in South Toowoomba. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom plus powder room house on 716 square meters. Inside you have 3 generous bedrooms, built-in wardrobes, 2 beautifully renovated bathrooms, plus an additional powder room. Parking-wise, there's a single-car garage, workshop space, storage, and a double carport with drive-through access for a caravan. And it's within walking distance to Lake Anand, I don't know how to say that one, and less than 3 k's from the Toowoomba CBD. For an owner-occupier, this one's all about convenience and quality. You can see in the listing that the renovation has been done with a lot of care. European appliances, quality cabinets, updated bathrooms, and ducted aircon to the bedrooms. If you're the type of buyer who would rather buy a finished product than do a renovation themselves, this one might be worth looking at. The listing also mentions a rental appraisal of $700 to $750 per week, which does reflect the level of finish and the location. There is generally low vacancy risk in the area. It's in quite a good pocket and it has a strong appeal on resale. For an investor who wants a quality asset in a major regional city, this may make a lot of sense in a balanced portfolio. The next bracket is the 1 million to 1.5 million. One is a modern family home in the Glasshouse Mountains, and the other is a duplex in Rainbow Beach. The house in Glasshouse Mountain is a modern low-set family home on 655 square meters. You get 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and a double garage with a built-in workshop area. Inside, you have a galley-style kitchen with stone bench tops, breakfast bar, double pantry, soft closed drawers, and space for a plumbed fridge. The home is open-plan living and dining, a separate rumpus room or a 4th bedroom, vinyl timber look floors, and a high ceiling. You also have an undercover entertaining area outside with a fan and television point, a garden shed, and a 10 kilowatt solar system. For an owner-occupier, this looks like a practical, easy-to-live-in house. The high carport with room for a caravan is a plus, and a feature that's quite hard to add on later usually. The Glasshouse Mountain location gives it quite a lifestyle with views of the peaks, while still being relatively close if you're a commuter. I would say this suits a family who wants modern comforts, low maintenance, and a bit of space, without having to tackle a full acreage property. From the investor point of view, this is more of an owner-occupier type home. You won't be chasing high yield in this area generally, and it is in a bit of a higher price point. However, it may fit your portfolio perfectly. The second property in this price bracket is a duplex in Rainbow Beach. You get 2 strata titled units. Combined, there's 7 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, 2 cars on 882 square meters. It's positioned high on one of the premier streets and it has views to the islands. Each unit has an upstairs and a downstairs level. The property has air conditioning, ceiling fans, courtyards, a single garage, carport, and off-street parking. It's currently being used as holiday rentals, and it's about a 10-minute walk down to the local cafe, shops, and the patrol beach. For an owner-occupier, this is a bit of a choose-your-own-adventure type property. You could live in one and rent the other out, or you could occupy both and have your family live in one side, or have friends stay over. The big appeal is the elevated position and being walking distance to the beach. This is very much a lifestyle and flexibility property. If you are considering renting one and living in the other, you will need to be comfortable with having guests stay next to you all the time. Some people love that dynamic. Others prefer more separation and privacy. For someone who wants to live at the beach, run a small holiday business, and have some nice views, this could be a dream setup. From an investor perspective, I love duplexes. You have 2 strata titles living under the same roof in a blue chip coastal street, where even a block of land across the road has reportedly been sold for $2 million. So this property is already being used for holiday rentals, which means there's already a clear path to income. Holiday letting in Rainbow Beach can deliver strong nightly rates during peak seasons, especially with the water views and multiple bedrooms. One of the things I love about duplexes, especially when you can separate them with strata titles, is you do have the option to sell the units separately. This gives you the flexibility to raise capital if you want to. This particular property, I think, is a strong investment play for the right person. We're now going to jump up a little bit from the 1.5 mil to 2 mil bracket, and I'm going to show you 2 premium properties in Queensland. One is a fully renovated coastal penthouse in Labrador, and the other is a 1.3 acre hinterland retreat in North Maleny. The Labrador apartment has 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, and 2 car spaces. So this one's on level 14 and has been fully renovated. If you like the penthouse lifestyle, this is definitely one you want to have a look at. The kitchen has a nice large island, Smeg oven, and Bosch 5-burner cooktop. It's got a sunroom and a balcony. There are 3 large bedrooms, each with balcony access, and 2 of them have their own ensuites. Location-wise, you are 1 street back from the Broadwater and walking distance to just about everything in the area. For an owner-occupier, this is luxury coastal living. You have elevation, big views, and a layout that is very functional if you like hosting people. The separate living and dining, the finishes are modern, and you are paying for someone else's renovation, saving yourself the time and the hassle. This might suit a couple or a downsizer who wants to lock up and leave, or maybe you like to travel a lot, but you love the water views. It also might suit the professional who wants to be close to the coast without dealing with yard work. As an investment, this does sit right at the premium end. The listing does quote the rental appraisal around $1,800 to $1,900 per week, which does line up with the level of finish, the size, and the location. The upside is strong rent in a very desirable location and limited supply of apartments in look and feel like this. The downside is the body corporate costs are significant. Your buyer and tenant pool is narrower because it is a premium property. This type of property might work well as part of a portfolio that already has some base level assets. It's a statement piece more than a first step. Who wouldn't want a penthouse? The second property is a house in Maleny. 5 bedroom, 2 bathroom, and 5 car spots. It's on 1.3 acres of land. It's got orchards, spring-fed dam, and a Japanese garden, and a fire pit area. You can operate it as either a 5 bedroom or as a 3 bedroom plus a 2 bedroom self-contained flat. One side of the home has the 3 main bedrooms, the modern bathroom with spa, bath, and a separate toilet. The other side has 2 bedrooms, open plan living, a kitchenette, bathroom with laundry provisions, and its own patio and entrance. That part is separately metered, so it can function as a flat for guests or extended family or potential separate rental income. Outside there are nice gardens with lemons, mulberries, mangoes, bananas, grapefruit and passion fruit plus a spring-fed dam. There is a 9 by 9 meter workshop, and the property also has a 6 kilowatt solar system and electric entry gates. You are also only 3 minutes to Maleny village and about 30 minutes to the coast, so you can get the best of both worlds. For an owner-occupier, this is a lifestyle shift property. It's not just a house, it's a small private world with gardens, bird life, water, and multiple zones to live in. You can sit on the deck with the lake views, then wander down to the Japanese gardens or the fire pit in the afternoon. The dual living setup is a big advantage. If you have older kids or family living with you, you can keep them all separate and have your own space. This is my personal favorite property today. From an investor point of view, it's more of a lifestyle play, but it does have a dual income potential, which I'm always looking for. The flexible layout means you could live in one side and rent out the other. Maleny is also a popular destination for weddings, retreats, and getaways. So if you like the idea of creating businesses, you could have some ideas in this sort of property. For the next part of the video, we're going to go over the 2 million. So I'm going to show you 2 properties. One's more of just a fun one to show that's around the 20 million mark, which is definitely out of reach for most people. So this next part of the video, I'm going to jump into 2 properties that are over $2 million in value. Both are serious waterfront properties. One is a big family home with huge waterfront access inside a gated estate in Helensville. The other is a triple block beachside estate in the famous Hedges Avenue in Mermaid Beach. The first property is the Helensville house. The Helensville house is a 5-bedroom, 3-bathroom house on around 1,537 square meters with offers over $2.7 million. This one sits inside the gated Oyster Cove community on an enormous waterfront block. It states that it has around 37 meters of canal frontage, which is massive for a suburban waterfront home. Upstairs you have a big media room and 4 of the bedrooms. Outside you have an in-ground pool with plenty of space and a pontoon on the canal with access out of the Broadwater and to the ocean. The listing notes ducted aircon throughout, and you're only a few minutes drive to Hope Island Marina Shopping Centre. It's currently tenanted at around $1,600 per week until late February 2026, which is worth noting if you are planning on moving in. The gated Oyster Cove gives you that extra sense of security and privacy, and you are still very close to Hope Island. It's a nice middle ground between suburban living and resort style living. The big question with this one, if you're an owner-occupier, is timing. Because it is leased until early 2026, you need to be comfortable with the delay if your plan is to actually move in. If you are happy to wait and collect the rent in the meantime, that could actually help with the holding costs until you move in. The last property today is a bit of a fun one. Hedges Ave. So it's a 5-bedroom, 4.5 bath, multiple living zone with 12 car parks on a 1,214 square meter block. I put this one in the video because it's one of the highest price points available right now. It's a fully renovated beachside estate sitting on a rare 1,214 square meter block, which is listed as a triple block. The site has about 69 meters of dual street frontage, with access from both Hedges Ave and Tambourine Street. It is one of few homes on the strip with uninterrupted frontage, free from power pole obstructions, and an elevated position that captures panoramic views of the coastline, Hinterland, and the skyline. Outside you have tropical gardens, a resort-style magnesium pool and spas, an outdoor shower, herb and vegetable gardens, and a 6-person infrared sauna. For parking, there are 2 double car garages, plus additional gated parking for more than 12 cars, along with storage, car wash bay, and a gym room. The listing also mentions concept plans for an upper-level addition subject to council approval, which hints at future development or future value-add options. For an owner-occupier, this is a lifestyle and status purchase as much as it is a home. You are buying one of the bigger land holdings on what is arguably one of the most iconic streets in Mermaid. This would suit someone that wants to be close to the beach, who wants privacy and space, but still wants to be right in the middle of the Gold Coast action. Inside the multiple living zones and the guest wing mean the house can handle big families, extended families, or frequent visitors. The main trade-offs are obviously the price tag and the level of responsibility that comes with a property like this. Maintenance of gardens, pools, and buildings and external areas will be ongoing. But if you're at this level and you want a beachside home, this one is incredible. Hey, welcome to part B. We've just gone through all the houses. Now we're going to take everything we saw and break down the numbers. This is a part that no one explains clearly. It's always too complicated or too vague. So in this chapter, it's my job to try and make the finance side simple, clean, and easy to understand. Even if this is your first time learning about deposits, repayments, and borrowing capacity, I want you to walk away thinking, okay, we might be able to actually do something soon. If you would like a copy of any of the tables shown today, please reach out. We'd love to pass them across. So let's do it. Let's begin with deposits. The full table here. So on this table, we're going to ignore stamp duty, legal fees, and other upfront costs just to make it clean and simple for now. So this is purely the deposit on the property price. The table tells you exactly how much deposit you need at each LVR, or loan to value ratio. This is a simplification, just using the actual property price and straight deposit. So in the table, you have the property price down the left-hand side, and across the top, you have the 5, 10, and 20% deposit amounts. So for example, a 500K property which is the top on the left side, with a 5% deposit, which is on the left of the top, is about $25,000. And on the other end, at the bottom is the $3 million price tag, and on the far right is the 20% deposit, showing $600,000 required for a 20% deposit for a $3 million property. I'm not going to go across every deposit and every amount here today. We're now going to talk about repayments. We're going to look at 5%, 10%, and 20% deposits with interest rates of 5%, 6%, and 7%. We're going to look at both principal and interest repayments, as well as interest-only repayments. This is where people can get overwhelmed if the numbers aren't presented clearly. So I've broken them down into simple tables, so you can pause, screenshot, or print, or as mentioned earlier, feel free to reach out and we'll pass them across to you. So before we look at repayments, you need to know roughly the loan amount for each deposit level. So again, down the left-hand side, we have the house prices, and across the top, we have the 5, 10, and 20% deposit amounts. Once you minus the deposit amount, you're left with the loan amount. Again, right now, we're not including any of the stamp duty or other fees because we just want to keep the numbers simple for now. In this table, we will touch on the expenses a little bit later in the video. So again, for a 500K property with a 5% deposit, which is the very top left location, the loan amount will be around $475,000. And for a 20% deposit on a $3 million property, which is the bottom right-hand corner, the loan amount will be around $2.4 million. The loan amounts are what your repayments are actually based on. So keep that in the back of your mind as we look at the repayments. We're going to start with the principal and interest repayments. All of these are also based on 30-year loan terms. You do not have to choose a 30-year loan term. It has just been what most people have selected over the years. All numbers in the table have been rounded slightly just to keep it all nice and clean. I'm not going to read through every line today because that would just take way too long. But after each table, we will walk through a couple examples. So when you're looking at the numbers, you know what to look for. If you look down the left side, you'll see the loan amounts. And across the top, you'll see the 5, 6, and 7% interest rates listed. So on this particular table, a $475,000 loan with a 5% interest rate would have repayments of roughly $2,550 a month. If the rate was up at 7% interest, your repayments would be around $3,160, which would be a difference of around $610 with 2% interest rate change. And that's on a $500,000 purchase. On a $750,000 purchase with P&I repayments, you can see the loan amounts of $712,000, which is a 5% deposit, $675,000, which is a 10% deposit, and $600,000, which is a 20% deposit. With the 5% deposit of $712,000 on a 5% interest rate, the repayments are around $3,820. And you can see here at 7%, the repayments are around $4,720. If you were able to get up to a 20% deposit at 5%, you would only be paying on a $600,000 loan, and the repayments would be around $3,220. For $1 million purchase, you can see the loan amounts of the 5, 10, and 20% again, 5% being $950,000 loan, 10% being a $900,000 loan, and 20% deposit giving you an $800,000 loan. It's funny, when I was younger, $1 million was the word used for when someone was rich. Now it's an average sized home in a decently populated area. The same formula can be used for the rest of the tables in this section. Down the left is the 5, 10, and 20% deposits and the loan amounts that leads to. And across the top, there is the 5, 6, and 7% interest rates. We're now going to move on to the interest-only repayments. Interest-only is very common for investors to use. It helps to keep the repayments lower in the early years. For the $500,000 property purchase, again, 5, 10, and 20% deposits were used on these loans, leading to a $475,000 loan, a $450,000 loan, and a $400,000 loan. This time, with the $475,000 loan at 5% interest rate, your repayments are around $1,980 a month. Now, when you compare that to the principal and interest loan earlier, that's a difference of $570 per month more in your pocket each month. This strategy in particular would be to maximize cash flow every month and to maximize the tax benefits on the investment property. Sometimes owner occupiers will still want to do interest only, and it just might be for a short term even to free up some cash flow. On the $750,000 purchase, we have loan amounts of $712,000 with a 5% deposit, $675,000 with 10%, and $600,000 with 20% deposit. If we look at the $712,000 at 5% interest rate again, the repayments are around $2,965 a month. Compared to principal and interest, that's an extra $855 roughly in your pocket every month. At the $1 million purchase with a 5% interest rate and a 5% deposit, the loan's around $950,000. The repayments are $3,950 a month roughly. And the difference now each month is $1,140 per month lower than the P&I. The $1.5 million purchase, with a $1.425 million loan and a 5% interest rate, the repayments here are $5,940 a month, and the difference between interest only and P&I is $1,710 a month. Now keep in mind, you're not actually paying off the loan when you're on interest only. You were just paying the interest. So a lot of people don't like this, and investors love it. One of the reasons they love it is if you have an owner-occupier, for example, and an investment property, and you have some extra cash, you can start paying down the owner-occupier a lot faster by putting in the extra funds. You're also maximizing, as I mentioned earlier, the tax benefits, and you have the ability to pay down an owner-occupier much faster with a different strategy. So just for the last numbers, the $3 million purchase, with a $2.85 million loan at 5%, the repayments are $11,875 a month on this particular loan, interest only. And if you compare that to the principal and interest, you are now potentially paying $3,425 less a month while you're on interest only. Now that we've looked at deposits and repayments, let's flip the script a little bit and look at some borrowing capacities. We're just going to do some simple income ranges. Hopefully it gives you a rough idea of where you're at right now. So these are very general ranges because real borrowing power depends on a lot of things. Expenses, credit, car loans, HEX debts, how many kids you have, credit card limits, and which lender you use. But these numbers are hopefully helpful for people at home that have no idea where they're at right now. I just want you to get a sense of where you sit on the ladder. So I'm going to show two tables today. One is just single income people by themselves. These are also based on owner-occupier homes. And the reason for that is when you look at an investment property, a lot more things come into play. For example, if you're living with your parents and you're looking at a rental, all the income from the rental can be used. And that changes your serviceability drastically. Now, when you're looking at an owner-occupier, it's based on your income and your wages and your expenses. So this first table is for singles. If you look at the top, there's a 50K income and your borrowing range is roughly between $212,000 and $294,000. This is how much you can get a loan for roughly. So your deposit's on top of that. You still need a deposit to actually purchase a home. This is just your borrowing capacity amounts, what you might be able to borrow. On a $75,000 income, you might be able to borrow between $310,000 and $450,000 depending on the lenders. For a 100K income, roughly between $415,000 and $650,000. And a $150,000 income, you can borrow between $700,000 and $946,000. The borrowing capacity for couples. So this is the combined income ranges. So the first range we've used is $100,000. Both people on $50,000 a year. You can see the capacity is around the $415,000, the $610, $150,000 income, $75K each, is roughly $730,000 to $915,000. $200,000 income with $100K each is around $1 mil to $1.2 mil, and a $300K income with around $150 each is roughly between $1.5 and $1.9 million. So if you're earning around $200K combined, you're looking quite comfortably at the mid to low $1 million mark, depending on deposit and everything else. So we're going to briefly touch on first home deposit schemes because they are quite popular right now, but a lot of people still don't understand them. The first home guarantee scheme is one of the most effective tools out there right now for everyday Australians trying to get into the market. It makes a 5% deposit much more powerful. You get the 20% deposit rates because the government essentially backs you as a 20% deposit. You don't have lender's mortgage insurance, which helps with lower upfront costs. And it recently went up from a $700K cap to $1 million, which has been huge for us on the Gold Coast. So I recently had a couple that moved over from New Zealand. One of them had actually owned a property in New Zealand, but neither of them had owned property in Australia, which still made them eligible for the first home buyer scheme in Australia, as they'd never owned here. So they could have purchased with a 5% deposit and no LMI. However, at the time, it was still a $700,000 cap. And we couldn't find anything under 700 that they actually wanted to live in. So this time they actually went another way, but the deposit scheme was something they really wanted to get. So in the end, this particular couple didn't actually use the scheme. I mention this story because most people assume that if you've owned a property overseas, you're instantly disqualified. However, you're not. This particular scheme only matters if you've owned in Australia. We're just going to touch on a few different loan types now. So construction loans work a little bit differently than the standard home loan. You get approved for the full amount, but the bank releases the money in stages. As the builder completes each section of the build, the bank releases more money. Generally, you only pay interest on the amount that's been drawn during the build. This means that early repayments are small and they grow gradually as the build goes on. A general drawdown structure could look like 5% deposit, 15% when the slab's finished, another 20% with the frame when it's at a lockup stage, another 25%, And then when it's at the fixing stage, another 20%. And then upon the final completion stage, generally you do an inspection before paying the final amount, which could be 15% in this particular scenario. Construction loans can make building a new home much easier on the cash flow side of things because you don't have the full weight of the entire loan from the start. So a bit of a high level on commercial loans. Commercial loans, generally speaking, have slightly higher interest rates and often require a slightly higher deposit amount and are assessed using slightly different rules. They are heavily influenced by lease income if it's tenanted. They can be more flexible for business owners, but can also come with more complexity. For now, this is just a mention, so you know that the pathway exists. And we'll go deeper into commercial another time. Rentvesting, something that we've talked about in the past in another video, essentially means rent where you want to live and buy where you can afford. Banks count rental income from the investment property in your borrowing power. If you live cheaply, such as with your parents or in a shared house, you reduce your living expenses and increase your serviceability dramatically. The two-step rentvesting plan. This is a good plan for people that want $1 million property eventually but can't afford it right now. Step 1, buy what you can afford. Let's say it's a $500,000 to $600,000 investment property. You let it grow for the next 5 to 6 years while watering it like a plant. You just keep putting extra funds in it, whatever you can, get an offset account, talk about strategy with someone that you know or like, or feel free to reach out to us and we can discuss things. As the property rises and the debt goes down, step 3 comes up, which is to either refinance and pull out some equity if you have the serviceability for another loan, or sell the property and buy the property that you were hoping to buy initially. For example, if you could afford a $500,000 loan and you wanted a $1 million property, once your property was over $500,000 in value, plus the expenses you lose from the sale, so let's say about $530,000, you could clear the $500,000 and then use that to get another $500,000 loan for the $1 million property that you've dreamed of. This would be a way to get into something you've always dreamed of. Not today, but you will get into it. Because quite often we talk to people and they get sad and they think, I can never do this. There are options, you just have to think a little bit outside the square. So yeah, step 4 was just to combine the equity and the savings and get into that $1 million property that you love. There is a huge group of Australians who want to retire in comfort rather than scale back their lifestyle. Some dream of an acreage like I do, and some want to be by the beach like my dad. Others want a bigger home with space for family visits, a pool for the grandkids, or a nicer, potentially safer suburb where they can enjoy the next stage of life. This is far more common than people think. How this usually works: people use the equity from the home they've lived in forever. They decide to either upgrade or downsize. They decide to upgrade into the $2.5 to $3 million property that they want to enjoy long term. They structured the loan to fit comfortably in their pre-retirement income and their retirement plan. They keep the property as a major pillar of their wealth and long-term security. This is far more common than people think. The old idea of downsizing and selling everything off as soon as you retire is not the only option. In fact, I strongly believe people should live the end of their life on their own terms. Keeping an investment property or two gives you ongoing income potential, protects you against the rising cost of living, and lets you finish your life stronger rather than by retiring and shrinking your world. The goal is simple. Upgrade your lifestyle without sacrificing long-term safety. Use your equity wisely. Keep assets that give you strength. Live the last chapter of your life the way you want to. This is the sort of conversation that I'm really passionate about, and it's what drives me. Trying to help people protect themselves when they are weak is something I'm passionate about. And by weak, I mean financially, once you no longer have the potential to bring in any more income. All right, if you made it this far, well done. We have gone from $500,000 properties all the way up to a $20 million property in Hedges Avenue. We've looked at some real properties currently available with real numbers and real strategies that people are using every day, not just theory. My hope is that at some point in this video, you saw a price point or a scenario that made you say to yourself, hey, I'm closer than I thought I was. And if that happened, this is your sign to stop guessing and to start getting some clarity. Of course, everything we have gone through today is general in nature. It's not personal advice. Your situation is unique. Your goals are unique, and your comfort levels are unique. So if you're sitting there thinking, we don't know where to start, or we have some equity but no clear plan, or we just want someone to walk us through our options without pressure, that's exactly what I do every day. And if you would like a copy of the tables or the Excel spreadsheet that I mentioned earlier, or if you want me to run some actual numbers for you, please reach out and I will happily put something together. No pressure, no obligation. We're not going to ring you 100,000 times like when you try and quit the gym. Just a clear picture of where you stand and what your next 2 or 3 steps could be. And if you enjoyed this style of breakdown, please feel free to like the video, subscribe, and share it with a friend if you like, especially the one that keeps saying maybe one day. Sometimes just seeing some numbers laid on paper can help you turn something into a real plan. Thanks for hanging out with me and walking through the Queensland market. I am Aaron from Opiak Finance Solutions, and I'll see you in the next one.